In 1902, 10 years before Paramount Pictures opened its gates, a man called Will Barker bought a white lodge here on Ealing Green as a site for filmmaking, and films have been made on this site ever since. It is the oldest continuously working studio facility for film production in the world and home to Met Film School. Next Sunday, the Academy Awards will honor the best films and filmmakers of the year. Here at the Met Film School, together with a bunch of very talented students, we decided to create our own alternative spin on that ceremony in a new show called Talking Pictures. Welcome to Talking Pictures. My name is Victoria, and today we are joined together with a film critic and National Film and Television School tutor, Mark Johnson.
Hello.
And the author and director of Guerilla Film Makers Handbooks, Chris Jones.
Good to see you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And the first awards that we are going to talk about is the category of Best Pictures. So this year there were 10 films nominated for Best Pictures. The Artist, The Descendants, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The Help, Hugo, Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, The Tree of Life, and Warhorse. So, Mark, what film do you think deserves this award the most?
Personally, I'd like to see Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life win. Fairly controversial. Some people love it, myself included. Some people find it impenetrable and deeply problematic. At the other end of the scale, I'm slightly confused as to why Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close
This is the kind of film.
It's the kind of Stanley Kramer kind of cinema. And it almost borders upon being offensive cinema, taking an event, 9/11, and, you know, pillaging 9/11 for cheap sentimental effects.
Yes, and this film, it wasn't really very successful in other awards, like...
Not particularly. I mean, this seems to have come because, I don't know, what is it doing here? I'd like someone to explain why the category has been expanded so that this particular film, this somewhat self-important film, has found its way onto the Best Picture category.
Yes. So going back to Tree of Life.
Tree of Life.
It's a great, interesting film, very visual and in a way
It's a
experimental.
fabulous looking film. Certainly narratively it's experimental.
But do you think it's something that the Oscars would go for?
Not necessarily. I think it would. I mean, it's certainly a religious film. I think that most people, whether they like the film, dislike the film, they could agree that it is in fact a religious film. You don't necessarily have to be religious to enjoy a religious film. You can have I think a transcendental, a spiritual experience watching film without being religious yourself. You don't have to, you know, There are many filmmakers over the decades that have been religious filmmakers and have been admired by people that are not necessarily religious themselves. I think this film itself, being narratively experimental, as Terrence Malick is and certainly has been, does polarize people. I'm not too sure that is going to go with Oscar voters. I'd like to see it myself, but I don't think so.
Chris, what do you think about the films? There were a lot of films overlooked this time with Oscars. Do you think Oscars are going for something very mainstream?
The Oscars are, at the end of the day, a commercial organisation. Really, they're about marketing Hollywood. And it's important for them as an organisation to put on a show that attracts the umpty-trumpty billions of people around the globe that actually watch it. So as an awards event, it's not the Olympics. It's not like you can run the fastest and therefore win. This is a political game. It's also a commercial game. I mean, I think it's interesting that the Best Picture has been expanded to 10 films, where it previously was 5 films.
It was only 5 films.
Yeah, so it gives the Academy more opportunity to market 5 more films. So they can have The Tree of Life and also The Help, which is a very popular movie. By the way, I couldn't disagree with you more about Tree of Life. I thought it was just impenetrable nonsense.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, Jurassic Park, like halfway through. I mean, please. Listen, I think Terrence Malick's a terrific director, but blimey, I mean, my girlfriend, she wanted to leave the theatre. I think the dinosaurs was the icing, you know, after, you know, sitting through, you know, hours of beautifully presented, very, very important what the hell is going on kind of stuff. And then the dinosaurs, it's just like, you know, it's made on acid. So.
Yes. I'll have to stop you for this category, this is it. But very quickly, which film realistically do you think will win the Oscar?
I am going to go for the rehabilitation factor, and I am going to go for Woody Allen. I think a weak Woody Allen myself. I think Woody Allen's made 2 masterpieces, Annie Hall, Manhattan, unquestionable masterpieces. Midnight in Paris is, I think, going to go... Yeah, I don't think it's a great Woody Allen. I think it's a mediocre Woody Allen. But I think that a lot of people are kind of plumbing for the artist, certainly after the BAFTAs.
Yes,
I don't think the artist, certainly the artist had Kim Novak coming out criticising the use of Bernard Herrmann's music, fatuously criticising it. It's fabulous use of Bernard Herrmann's music.
Thank you, Mark. Sorry. And Chris, which film do you think realistically?
I think the artist will probably win, but I would love to see The Help win, because I thought it was a wonderfully popularist movie that everybody I've met who's seen it really, really connected with it.
But badly made.
But
I disagree with you.
Well, here at Talking Pictures, we believe that the artist will win the Oscar because it's a very brave, great storytelling and
film.
Just a beautiful film. Yeah. So let's move on to the next category, which is directing. And this time there are 5 films nominated for directors, which is The Artist, Descendants, Hugo, Midnight in Paris, and The Tree of Life. So Chris, what do you think in terms of directing? Isn't it interesting that it's a completely different category?
Yeah, I mean, this year, normally I've got a fairly good handle on who's going to pick up the best director, but really, genuinely, this year, I have no idea. You know, if Terrence Malick won it for The Tree of Life, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't necessarily think it's the best choice, but any one of the directors this year could really walk away with the award, which I think is very different.
Do you think that the best directing should really go to the best picture, or should there be some difference?
That's an age-old debate, really, isn't it? I mean, it's a strange one, isn't it, that there is a best picture and a best director, because they kind of go hand in hand. But I think what the Academy is trying to do is acknowledge that a picture is put together by a producer and has many, many moving parts, and the director is the overall vision of the film. So, you know, whether it succeeds or fails as a movie is a different argument about whether it's brilliantly directed. I think Terrence Malick has a shot for Best Director, because it may be a flawed movie.
This is interesting. You were saying that this wasn't the best.
I didn't like it, but then, you know, it's not important. I don't vote, and so it's important that the voters, the Academy voters, what they choose.
Well, you are right. There is that dichotomy that if you have a best film, why wouldn't the director win simultaneously?
So in your case, you would think that Terrence Malick should get that?
Well, I would think Terrence Malick, but I am in fact going to stick with, and I think the line that Woody Allen uses in his film Annie Hall is appropriate here, when he says, quote, "Awards, awards, all they do is give out awards. Greatest fascist dictator, Adolf Hitler." And I do think that sums up the whole kind of awards, certainly the Oscars. And I do think in this case, I would plump with Woody Allen again.
With Woody Allen?
I do.
So you think Woody Allen is back with
I think he's back. It's an enormous financial worldwide, you know, 150 million worldwide. You know, I think it's his biggest hit to date. You know, people love, certainly we now have a, you know, financial crisis. People love sophisticated, you know, Woody Allen comedies that are generally romantic, you know, funny, sophisticated. I think it's a weak Woody Allen, but I think it'll be Woody Allen to walk away with Best Director.
And Chris, do you think that a film like The Artist, which is black and white, silent, do you think that the director should get some kind of awardship just for being brave to choose a picture like that?
I think the Academy probably will will reward it, whether it's in Best Director or Best Picture, who knows. It is brave, and you know, at the end of the day, I've forgotten the statistic, but it's like 40% of the Academy are over 70.
Yes.
So, not that I'm saying they were making silent movies, but they're certainly, you know, they tend to lean a little bit more towards romantic, maybe old school filmmaking.
And let's not forget that Mel Brooks got there first with silent movie back in 1976, 77. He made a silent movie. I think, in fact, there is one word.
So even more than in the artist.
Even more, indeed. But he did get there first, you know. So it's not, the artist is not, you know, the only...
But then nothing's original, is it?
Oh, absolutely.
Everything is just a reinvention of the same thing. It's just whether it's done with panache, whether it connects with a large audience.
Oh, The Artist is a fabulous film. You know, there's, you know, great brio.
It's very brave. It's the storytelling is very simple,
but it has two fabulous actors who really do work well together.
Indeed.
And I think if you didn't leave with a smile on your face, nothing would make you smile.
So very quickly, who do you think, not just your opinions, but just in terms of the Oscars, who realistically will get the Best Director award?
Well, Best Director, I think, will be Woody Allen.
Woody Allen.
I think, you know, Midnight in Paris, I said Best Film, and I would have to stick.
And Chris?
I'm going to put my neck out and say Terrence Malick.
Terrence Malick, very interesting. Well, here at Talking Pictures, we believe that the Best Director will go again for the artist, especially because it's such a brave decision to direct this kind of film. So moving on to the next category, which is the Best Actor in a Leading Role. There are 5 actors nominated this year: Demian Bashir, George Clooney, Jean Dujardin, Gary Oldman, and Brad Pitt. And this is interesting because it introduces some other films, like, for example, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy with Gary Oldman. Do you think, Mark, that Gary Oldman should get it finally?
Well, I think I'd like to. I think he gives a fabulous performance, rather strangely overlooked at the BAFTAs last week in his own country. And of course, you know, it's impossible to have one best film, one best actor. I would think that George Clooney, I think George Clooney will, it's odd, I think, that the Ides of March, I think has, in the script category, an award. And I was really surprised that the Ides of March didn't, you know, was not mentioned, you know, didn't have
other categories.
Exactly. And I think George Clooney will walk away with the best actor.
Because he's the best this year in the
I don't think
because he deserves after so many years?
I think the Academy will vote for him. I think they will vote tactically for him. I'm not necessarily sure that they will like the film Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which is a dour British film. I think, you know, Gary Oldman gives a terrific performance. I think he channels you know, a great deal into the performance, and certainly deserves an award. He deserves an award, but I don't think it will be him, unfortunately.
Yes, and you said earlier that the artist works as well because of great acting. So what about Jean Dujardin? Doesn't he
is fabulous, and he's not unknown in this country. I mean, certainly there are a number of films, OS 117, Lost in Cairo, and most recently Little White Lies. So he's not an unknown, and he's incredibly charismatic. You know, fabulous dancer.
And for being in the completely silent film, it's such a challenge for an actor.
Absolutely, absolutely. But he pulls it off, you know, with great skill and great charm. But I don't think, and I mentioned Kim Novak, and on Kim Novak's webpage, her kind of criticism and annoyance that they'd used the music from Vertigo, Bernard Herrmann's, you know, iconic score. And I think that it will work against the artist.
Against the artist.
I do.
Chris, what about Brad Pitt in...
Well, I'd actually like to see Brad Pitt get a nod, because I think Moneyball is actually a super smart movie about a very popular industry in America, the football industry. And it's really a very intelligent film that looks at that particular industry through the eyes of smart storytelling. And I really think that, you know, Brad Pitt being a producer on it as well, it should really be rewarded.
Well, interesting.
I don't think he'll get it, but I'd like to see
But
it.
you would like to see him getting. And also Brad Pitt was in The Tree of Life.
Yep.
Do you think he's becoming a more serious actor, more respectful?
I think Brad Pitt always has been a serious and respected actor. I just think he's kind of, it's a double-edged sword. He's so good-looking and, you know, fits the action movie stereotype, even though he's not really done that many action movies. I think he suffers from being a little bit too pretty, and therefore people kind of take a little bit away from actually the charisma and power that he brings to the roles that he plays. I think he's terrific. I thought he was very good in Tree of Life, even though I didn't, you know, I sat there, you know, feeling existentially overwhelmed. But he was terrific.
He was terrific. So very quickly to wrap up this category, who do you think realistically will get the award, Mark?
Well, I would just add one small point about Moneyball. Interestingly, it was Steven Soderbergh who was fired from Moneyball. From Moneyball, he wanted to make a completely different structured picture than what we have now seen. And Moneyball is a fine film, but I think that Moneyball is a genre that the Americans love. The sporting genre, you know, the underdog. Ultimately, it is an underdog. It's a sports genre, and it's the underdog that triumphs.
That's very interesting. So, do you think that who will get the award for the actor?
I think Gorgeous George will walk away with The Descendants, I think.
Great. And Chris?
I agree. George will probably win.
Very interesting. Here at Talking Pictures, we think that Gary Oldman, for a very subtle portray of a spy in Tinker Tailor, in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, will go away with an award. And let's move to the category of actress in a leading role. This time there are 5 actresses nominated for the Oscar: Michelle Williams, Glenn Close, Viola Davis, Rooney Mara, and Meryl Streep. Chris, do you think that there is anyone in particular very strong?
Well, I think, unfortunately, for all the other actresses this year, everyone is going to be in the shadow of the Iron Lady, and Meryl's going to. I mean,
Mighty Meryl, absolutely.
It's a no. I mean, you know.
She
how
had
could you compete
17
with that?
nominations.
I think more nominations than anybody in Oscar history. I think
it is 17
she
nominations.
Hasn't won for quite a while. I think the Deer Hunter was the first, or maybe the Deer Hunter and then Kramer versus Kramer, I think were the 2 that she won for. She is, and I think gives one of the screen's best performances. There's not an ounce, now whether you are pro or anti-Thatcher, there's not an ounce of condescension. There's not an ounce of mimicry in her performance. An absolutely remarkable performance. And it's also worth pointing out that not only is Jim Broadbent fabulous, who isn't nominated, who should have been nominated, but also, rather in a trivial way, the makeup is fantastic. Compare the makeup in The Iron Lady, the aging makeup, to that in J. Edgar. J. Edgar has terrible, terrible aging makeup.
Maybe that's the reason why J. Edgar probably
maybe, J. Edgar is not a very good film. Larry Cohen made a much better film about J. Edgar Hoover.
Yes, it was 70s film.
70s, The Private Files of Edgar J. Hoover, 1977, Larry Cohen. Highly recommended.
Yes. So, Chris, coming back to you, you said Meryl Streep is going to win it. But if it wasn't Meryl Streep for Iron Lady, do you think there would be anyone else? Michelle Williams, she's given funny performance in...
well, I'd like to see Rooney for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, because it's such a bold and striking performance. I don't think she's got a hope in hell's chance of winning.
No.
But I would like to see a nod towards it, because again, even though it's a remake, it's a tough movie.
An academic remake, though.
Yeah.
No reason to remake it.
That is what David Fincher is, though. He is a kind of a very clinical academic filmmaker, isn't he? And that's the kind of stuff he puts in. So, but you know, I often get into these arguments with people saying, what's the point of remaking it? But I think actually in the real world, most people don't watch foreign films.
Well, certainly not in America, perhaps in Europe.
I'm not even sure in Europe. You know, I'm a filmmaker. I hang around with people who are not filmmakers, and they won't watch The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo because it's not in English. So you can call them wrong.
Well,
that's
lazy.
fine. You can call them lazy. It doesn't matter. They're not going to watch it. So I think there is an argument.
Well, it's a
for
good
remaking.
film, and she does give a good, solid performance. But again, I would have to say I'm not quite sure why she's in this particular category. Glenn Close, Michelle Williams, and the Mighty Merrill. She doesn't come close, I don't think. Viola Davis, very good. In fact, The Help has nothing but fabulous performances.
Fabulous cast.
But
Just the
it's
cast is
not
amazing.
a good film.
I have to cut you here. This is very interesting. This is it for this category. And here at Talking Pictures, we believe that this award should go to Meryl Streep, just because she also deserves it. So earlier this week, we sent our reporter, our brave reporter and wannabe director Emil Jensen to Leicester Square to find out what the public thinks about the Oscars.
Good morning, good day, good evening, and good night, depending on where you're watching this. I'm here in Leicester Square, and I'm going to walk around and find out how much people really know about the Oscars.
Covent Garden, take one.
It's actually Leicester Square.
Leicester Square, take one.
Excuse me, sir. Yeah. Do you know what the best film nominees for the Oscars are?
Whoa, that's a hard question, man.
Oh, that is a tough one. That's a tough one. Okay. You got oh my God.
Oscars? No, I don't. No. I don't.
You have no idea?
No idea, man.
This year.
This year.
Which films are nominated?
I haven't got a clue. This year.
This year.
I can't. Can I have a clue, please?
George Clooney?
George Clooney, yeah, he's on the beach. He's sitting on the beach, something like that.
George Clooney on a beach.
On the beach. George Clooney on the beach.
Oh, what's this George Clooney film? The Descendants.
The Descendants!
Yes! Well done, babe.
Okay.
Is it Descendants of George Clooney?
The new one with George Clooney.
What do you guys think of George Clooney?
Fit.
Oh! Something you ride.
A horse. A horse.
The horse goes to
war.
Which makes the film
Wars.
Yay!
Yes.
I really don't know what else.
Carnage isn't it?
No.
The Muppets?
No.
I wish it was.
Do you know about Tree of Life?
Yeah.
How is it?
Fantastic.
Have you been told before that you look a bit like Stephen Merchant?
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. The Tree of Life.
What about it?
Do you like it?
I don't know what it is.
It's a film.
Never heard of it.
It's Oscar nominated.
I've never heard of it.
It's nominated now. It's going to be at Oscars in 2 weeks.
Well, good luck to him. Hope they win.
You believe that?
Yeah, boy!
And the Oscar goes
So we discussed major categories so far. And there are these categories and people who are working in film industry who are completely overlooked. Chris, what do you think? Should there be an award for a best first AD, first assistant director?
I understand the idea conceptually. I just don't know whether that would work for the public. Again, coming back to the notion that the Oscars is a show. And already in the UK, when it's televised, they tend to cut some of the less important. I don't think they are less important, but some of those categories.
That's a very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
So they're not going to bloat it. As it stands, the Oscars always overrun.
Yes, that's right.
Having said that, there has been quite an interesting debate. It came out of The Little Dog in Hugo and Warhorse. The animals.
Little Dog in The Artist. Yes,
yeah,
the artist. They should deserve any.
And should animals be recognised for their contribution to a film? And I don't know whether it's the animal and the handler, but I think that's actually quite a good argument because audiences connect with that performance, whether it's a performance or capturing something that the animal is doing. I don't know, but it's certainly real. It's not CG. It's real, and I think that's important.
I suppose there has to be a kind of a figurehead, and the figurehead would be those kind of, you know, key categories: actor, director, actress. I completely understand your question, but I'm not sure that it's possible. You know, how far down the line would you go?
But is it just because the public wouldn't understand?
Not necessarily.
But they do have technical awards, don't they?
They do have technical awards.
That would be the home.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right
What
there.
about, for example, the award for casting director? That's something that public would totally understand.
Possibly, but what would the casting director really be getting an award for?
Well, you said earlier that The Help has a very good ensemble of cast.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't the
But
casting
then
director...
who on the, you know, you can't really say, was that the director who guided them? Was that the actors themselves? You might think that an actor could come in and do 2 or 3 short scenes, but is such a fabulous actor, they don't need guidance. They know the lines, they can nail the part. So who would get responsibility for that? The actor? The director? The casting director? I don't think there's a clear-cut way of actually answering that and saying, well, yes, the casting director is responsible. It's certainly possible they could have guided the director in the direction of certain actors, certainly supporting players.
Yes. Yeah, I'd have to disagree with you there. I think actually the casting director is the one area that is overlooked by the Academy, because when I think about when I'm making a film and the important people I have to work with, the first person I call is the casting director, and the quality of the cast that I have in my movie is based entirely on their judgment, their experience, their relationships, and what they bring to the film is invaluable. It's just unfortunate that it tends to happen right at the very beginning of the process.
Yeah.
And by the time you get into the nuts and bolts of making a film, you've forgotten about it. It was so bad, even at the premiere of the last film that I made, I forgot to thank the casting director, because I went through the whole process in my head and wrote everybody down, but she had done her work before I got to set.
Well, I agree with you, but there's also such a thing as miscasting, bad casting,
yes,
inept casting.
In which case they wouldn't get nominated, would
yes,
they?
maybe in
That's
that case
the
they wouldn't be nominated,
Good.
and then everyone would know that's the casting director to blame. But going to some other funny nominations, what if we had a nomination for Best Boy? Public would love it because it sounds funny.
Yes, possibly, but then that would slightly devalue the Oscars, I think. That if you're going to give awards for Best Tea Person.
But that's the spirit of filmmaking. We are all about
Possibly, but sometimes if you've ever sat through perhaps the credits for the 1978 Richard Donner Superman, anybody will know that the credit sequence runs for a very long time. There's an awful lot of people. And certainly in the contemporary age, the contemporary digital age, what awards do we give for the digital contribution? Think of something like Hugo.
Yes.
Think of something like Warhorse.
There's definitely much more. I think also the awards are for creativity as well, and contribution to creativity. I've never understood why there's never a best poster.
That's
because
interesting.
it's, you know, it's a key part of the whole
Posters
market.
differ from country to country, I
Yes.
would say.
That's very interesting. Unfortunately, this is it that we have time for tonight. Thank you very much to our guests, Chris and Mark.
Thank you very
much. These are very interesting predictions, and we will see very soon whether your predictions will come true at the Oscar ceremony, which is happening very soon. And this is it for today. Thank you for being with us and watching us tonight. Tell your friends, family, and everyone to watch Talking Pictures, and we will be with you very shortly. Thank you. Goodbye.